Hello everyone, welcome back to the exchange where we will be spending hopefully more than an hour with Mr. Phil together. Mr. Phil,
Val.
what an amazing place to be.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's a nice part of the world. Something special about this place, and it's nice to be the custodians of it.
Yeah, obviously we're just sitting in the warehouse, but you know what? As I told you, this feels like a retreat.
Yeah, well, that's the goal. So we hope to run for retreats from here. So there is something special, like I said, about this place, and we want to get to that point where we can share it and bring other people and teach them the value that can be gained from here.
How much space do you have here? What is this land size?
About 96 acres.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Big enough for you to do what you're planning?
Yeah, just.
Just enough?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, obviously. All right, let's maybe talk today, of course, about your farm, what you're planning to do. Maybe we'll touch base a few things about the life philosophy and what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, sure.
All right, let's start.
Yeah, okay. So I guess we always wanted to have some sort of level of self-sufficiency and be able to look after ourselves and our families. Coming from that background, family was a very important thing to us, and having that tightly knit bond and that strong sense of community, even with our more extended family, which was good growing up, and always like lots of cousins and lots of people over and all that. And just learning to appreciate it now as we're getting older, and also I guess through what we learned through the pandemic and having not realised the freedoms that we do have and freedoms that I think we must fight to protect. And by having like something like this, you can have an element of control, and you can, with the way we're moving towards highly processed foods and it becoming a norm and being accepted by the mainstream and being built into food pyramids and things like that, we just wanted to bring that control back to the family.
Yeah.
And we can, coming from like the meat industry ourselves, just having control in that aspect, and also what we bring to our clientele as well, and also just having space and what you can learn from land and working the land, and having like the next generation know and learning about where produce comes from, what you can grow from a seed. So there's this tiny bit of genetic information which flourishes into a tree with the right setting and fruit, and you feed your family, and if you do the right thing by it, it does the right thing by you. You're not putting the pesticides and all these additives, which I understand, and I've talked about it before in the past, how that obviously there's an importance to mass-scale farming to feed 8 billion people, but ultimately there's ways to do it more intelligently, more sustainably, more mindful to be able to achieve good health, and that doesn't come from a bottle.
Yep. Look, you touched on the freedom.
Yeah.
But do you think freedom can't be taken away, even when you actually own the farm? You're trying to be, sufficient and independent from big corporations, but again, the financial system doesn't go away. You still has to rely on it.
Yep.
Don't you think the freedom still will be taken away eventually?
Could be. We can't control what happens in the future always, so we have to work with what we have now and put in the foundations, and that's why I think it's important to bring it to the light and see, so other people can see the importance of this, and if the overwhelming majority understands and appreciates that view, then it's a lot more difficult to take away.
Yep.
So I think in Australia, a lot of people are very relaxed, which is great. But when there's change in terms of policies and things in the government, you don't see the big scale, pushback that you do in other nations, and it's kind of, just she'll be right. And gradually, if you have that attitude, these freedoms can erode. Things can erode and leave ultimately the illusion of freedom. And I think we're at a bit of a knife's edge at the moment, and there's a big divide. And I think social media and a lot of government and world views and policies have helped shape this. And it's either, there's not many that are in the middle now. It's either extreme left or extreme right, and which both have some legitimate viewpoints, but both are pretty extreme. So I think it's important to try to help bridge this gap and educate and see the other side, and be willing to listen, because I listen to anyone. People have opposing views, and that's what freedom is. Freedom of speech is, you can say things that are offensive, but there could be consequences. and that's what freedom is. If you can't speak your mind, you're not in a free society.
Yeah, but again, freedom comes at a cost.
Correct.
And again, look, when you talk to someone, are they going to take any actions? What is the point of talking to someone and educating them if they're not willing to actually take any steps towards a better life?
Yeah, I agree. But people have to be in the right position to listen. Like some people aren't open to it. They're can be very closed-minded. But just like we said with the seed analogy before, like sometimes it's just about planting seeds and giving someone an opposing view or a thought, and then if they're not ready to accept or there's strong pushback, they might think about it later, and when the emotions have calmed down, they might come back to a point of reason, and often you see that, like you have a conversation and people blow up and they're upset about what you said, and they come back and they say, well, maybe I was wrong, or maybe tell me more, and then then you've got a conversation, then you've got a dialogue, and if you don't try, you've already failed.
Yep.
So.
But do you find there are more people who are coming to you for the answer, who are already looking for something better, or you're actually working predominantly with the people who are stuck in their own box and you're trying to change their mindset?
No, it's more there's a big push now, especially in the like regenerative farming and people doing their own homesteading and all that sort of thing. So I get approached regularly, and when people see the page and they ask, oh, well, how do you do this, or how have you done that, or your learnings and mistakes and that. And that's what I like. Like one of my life philosophies is like I try many things. I've tried pretty much every diet you can think of, so that you can read about it, but I think everybody's different, and if you haven't lived it, it's hard to give true experience. So I try the things, and some fail, some do well. Sometimes it's a hybrid of combination of factors from all these things, and then once you come up with something that's success, and then you can repeat it and retry it, and then you can pass that knowledge on if someone's open to it. But it's more, like you never win an argument. So you can't push something, an idea or a thought or an ideology down someone's throat. It's just, it results in failure, and that's not what freedom is. So people are entitled to have any view. My view isn't the ultimate view that's correct. Everyone's got their own view, own differences, and the thing is, I think it's important that we don't lose sight. You can have dramatically different views and still be friends. You can still get along. You can still, but at the same time, you have to be willing and open to listen. I think, to have, like I said, a conversation. Otherwise, it's just divergent paths, which society is on in many ways, I believe.
Yeah. But do you think your farm will become one day a tool which you'll be using to promote your lifestyle, promote your philosophy in life, or again, you're building a nest for your family?
Look, it's a bit of both. So we'd like to have some sort of commercialization to help educate and to also help sustain and grow our own property. But once again, it's the learnings, like with the solar, we've developed our own system, which is a hybrid system that I've never really encountered in the Australian market. So we've been able to test and trial and make this system which is able to collect sun, use it as we generate the power. It's stored in a battery. It's able to be used. We're able to sell the power to ourselves, to other sites, to other customers at whatever rates we choose. We're going to automate that now, so you can actually make money from the power. If the battery runs out, we've always got the main grids we can fall back to. In the event of a power failure or a bushfire, we've got the battery backup. So we're pretty self-sufficient in that respect. And I guess so through the trial and error, we've learnt how to do this. So if someone wants that answer, they can come and see, and if they're happy with the system, then they can implement it straight away instead of months of talking to different companies. We've got a company that can do it. They can do it well. They can do it affordably. They understand the system. So it's just about giving people the keys to fast forward and get them on their journey in the right track at the right time.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And I understand you're surrounded by other farmers.
Yes.
In terms of, again, supplying them with your own energy, did you look it as an option?
Yeah, there's a few limitations in terms of how much you can export on the single-phase setup. So we've only got single-phase power, unfortunately. So on that scale, we can't really do anything on a commercial sort of scale. So that's we could potentially look at doing like other, like for the direct farmers, we could potentially run a new cable or do something like that. But at this stage, it's more like a retail, smaller users, and enough to power ourselves comfortably.
Yeah. No, why I ask you is purely because I'm trying to link the freedom which you're looking for, and again, there will be probably less freedom in the future when the new currency is introduced, CBDCs and so on. What do you think about the barter system? The barter system with the local farmers, with the local businesses. Do we really need a currency then? If we can just exchange?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it does in terms of being fed and to an extent housing and all that sort of thing. But I guess once you if you still need tech and vehicles and things like that, then it becomes a bit more complicated. Like, how many chickens do you swap for a tractor? Like it's good in terms of food and beverages, wine, jams, fermentations, all that sort of products. But I think as a whole, society has kind of proven currency still does have a value.
Yeah.
And it's particularly in a healthy, functional society where we need different variety of products. But definitely within a community, the bartering systems worked for thousands of years, and why not?
Phil, let's maybe chat about philosophy, your life philosophy. What is the most important in your life right now?
Yeah, it's hard to narrow it down to one, and there's so many learnings like from great philosophers and successful people that have done it before, and I like to leverage off knowledge and not reinvent the wheel. I like so Warren Buffett says never lose money.
Never lose money if you have them.
That's right. Yeah, but I like to take that a step further.
But do you think it's a good comment? It's actually a relevant comment in general, and people should live by that philosophy or by that statement?
No, well, that's where I think it. Well, you can take it a step further and say never lose, because you might be financially fit, but you have terrible relationships.
How do you learn if you don't lose?
Yeah, that's right. And look, and there's some interpretation in that. So that's right. And even a loss can be a win, because I like to say never lose, but coming first isn't the only winner. Sometimes the person that comes last watches the other competitors, they learn from it, and next time they come second last, they come third last. So it's about taking the wins from any situation and applying it and learning and leveraging and bouncing back. And so any success comes from failure. I don't care. Like the Usain Bolt, he's genetically gifted, but he worked as well. You don't just turn up and you're the fastest in the world. The most, like some people started off with financial freedom to an extent from they might have been born into money, but like the Buffetts and things like that have 10x, 100x, 1000x. They obviously have an acumen in that space. So it's about learning, and I learned about this at a young age, even like with relationships and the schooling system. It's a game. There's these rules, these boundaries which are built to keep you in place and in line, but you can also stretch these, you can push these, and obviously you don't have to cheat, you don't have to break laws, but there's ways to use the system against itself to get the best out of it. And I like to apply that, and I learned that through my studies and things like that, like a lot of the tertiary system and like university and all that. There's an agenda behind it, and it's mainly financially based, and I learned that through a few incidents that we had with our faculty, and just learning how to play the game and go through the system, and you can succeed by just giving people what they want. And it's the same in business. You can have a business where you feel good about the product, but if the end user is not satisfied, you're not at your potential. If you ask the end user what do you want, and do that. Ask the lecturer what they want. Do that. You don't have to go around and do this thing. And I remember we had a Year 12 teacher, and we were doing colouring in and name games and stuff in Year 12, and it's like, is this going to get me to where I need to be? No, it's a waste of time. So you just cut that out, do what you need to get to what you do. So
how did we get there from the question of your personal values?
Well, personal philosophy. So I think that stemmed from learning the things from the system and learning how we can to build on that. So I guess one of my philosophies is that you stay focused on where you want to go and make a straight line for it.
Yeah. Again, what would you say is the most important value for you in life right now? You're a family man.
I've got a baby on the way, so look, definitely reminds you of the importance of family, two young kids, learning, looking up to you, and so yeah, setting that example, and that's kind of what it's all about. And it's a balance. So life's a balance. That's probably the.
Is it?
Yeah. Well, you know better than anyone else, but
I know it's not. I know it's nearly impossible to balance.
yeah, but you have to do the best you can and prioritize. So
Yeah.
if you want to have a good, successful career and a successful relationship, you have to give to both. If you water one and not the other, one dies.
Yeah.
And so although I think you can achieve balance through leverage. So if you want to do everything, no. But if you can potentially boost your income to pay for some of the other tasks that you're unable to do, or even make symbiotic relationships where someone can do something that they're very good at, and they can do your work in that area. So like a local farmer might come along and help us do digging the holes because we don't have hole digging equipment, but we've got a big tractor with a bucket. So if they need to move something else, so focus where your strengths are and able to leverage off people to achieve balance. So yeah, look, balance is definitely achievable if you work at it and if you have a plan and if you execute.
Yeah, okay, no, that's a good statement. I just slightly disagree. Again, in my experience, was never was able to actually achieve the balance. Always something would suffer, one or the other. And I think it's because, the way our mind works is you can think only on one thing at a time. You can't think of both things at a time. As a result, you have to focus on one thing. And when you're fully committed to a project or to a business, it means something else will suffer. And I know you're saying you try to balance, to make it work. Again, maybe that's something we can work on, and you can teach me how to find that balance. Because at this stage where I am, I know my personal life was affected. But the other side, business-wise, I think I'm doing okay.
Yeah, definitely.
That's something maybe we can look at after the interview.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think it's also important to set goals, have a long-term vision.
Yeah.
And then you can reverse engineer to get there. So have that relationship goal. And look, sometimes it doesn't have to be hours to achieve something. Sometimes it's just a moment, a thought, a message, just to know that you're thinking of someone. And it doesn't have to be like, we're going to go on a 2-week getaway every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So then obviously there's no balance. There's never a perfect balance.
Yeah.
Everything's perfectly equal in every aspect. The scales are always tipping one way or the other, but it's just being there to pick it up before it hits the ground and it's ruined. So it's spinning the plates. You got to give them an occasional just to keep it going. And
that's good.
But having said, it also comes back to chase 2 chickens, catch none. So it is important to focus, but if you have a look at it on a longer time scale and you have multiple goals, multiple factors that you're working towards.
I just want to clarify, I'm chasing only 1 chicken right now.
Yep.
Not Right, sorry.
That's good. That's good. So yeah.
Look, thank you. You mentioned a couple of times, Phil, about successful people. I just want to know, what does success means to you personally? How would you define it?
I think it ties to fulfillment.
Yeah.
Because there's plenty of people, Packers, and plenty of examples of people that have successful careers but unfulfilled life, or people that have that the elements that could be a fulfilled life, but if there's no success or no goals or no ambition, that's fleeting. It's hard to be happy in a relationship if you can't afford your next meal. So there has to be fulfillment, and fulfillment is not the same for everyone. Someone might be fulfilled with, they're happy to just travel the world and work at a cafe wherever they go to and have enough income just to survive, and that's their fulfillment, and that's fine. Other people, they want to build an empire, they want to have 300 houses. I know someone that does, and that's fine too. That's what it is about a free society. So I think if you have freedom, you have the opportunity to have fulfillment, and fulfillment comes at a cost. The things that you sometimes have to sacrifice to do better in the aspect that's important to you to gain that fulfillment. So success is hand in hand with fulfillment. If you're not fulfilled, it doesn't matter.
But would you say fulfillment is the derivative of happiness, or is it the other way? Would you say happiness is the derivative of fulfillment?
Look, chicken or the egg.
Why I'm asking you this question is because actually statistically the most happy people are the ones who are living in the developing countries.
True.
People who have nothing, but they're happy.
True.
But are they fulfilled?
They can be, and I think that's a lot to do with like the developed societies have short vision. They haven't seen true tragedy. They haven't seen true hardship to be fulfilled on what they have. And I have this conversation with people all the time, and it's like, and people get upset when you say, you should be grateful for what you have. But if you don't appreciate what you don't have or what you could, like the situation that you could be in, you never understand that. So we've got, unfortunately, like our suicide rates are going up, and people are unfulfilled in an environment where if you took someone from the developing country and put it in their shoes, they'd live the best life. And two people, I'll use the analogy all the time, there's two people with identical lives, different mindset. One has the greatest life possible. They appreciate their relationships, so they appreciate what they have. The sun's shining in the day, and the other person comes out and goes, oh, it's hot and it's terrible and I've got to go to work again. And so it's also perspective, and that's without having that perspective. So in a developed country, can you be fulfilled? Absolutely. Is it harder to? Yes, because you don't have that perspective. And it wasn't until I started to travel and see these developing countries and see true poverty, because the people in Australia who are classified as being like below the poverty line and struggle, but we do have a strong safety net, which if people are open to it, and some people have like a lot of mental health issues which prevent them from actually accessing a lot of these services, which makes the problem worse. But I guess that's if you take that out of the equation. We have a good society where we have a good safety net, and people don't have to be impoverished. But some people, they might drop their phone, it cracks, and it sends them over the edge, and they commit suicide. And if you can zoom out, and we were talking about this yesterday, like if you look from the stars down at Earth, we're just a speck floating through space, and our problems are so insignificant. And if you can see that, and you can separate these problems, and my friend Riz Khan, which you know also, he always says like this too will pass. So whatever hardship you're facing, incredible loss, a big failure, whatever challenge, knowing that it will pass, it will get better, things will improve, you can keep track of it. So some things in the past might have happened and got me down for weeks or months and that, but now I've got the tools and systems to go back and to zoom out and look at this perspective, and it might be minutes, it might be hours at worst. So it's important to have these tools to get happiness, to get the fulfillment. And it's easy to have everything and be unfulfilled. And it's often the most wealthy people are the least fulfilled, because they can't seem to get meaningful relationships because people are hanging out with them just for their wealth, or they've got this pessimistic view, or they're like, oh, everyone's just trying to get to the money, or everyone's, I've got everything, life's boring. And there's someone in a developing country that found a broken doll in a garbage tip, and they have the best time of their life, and they play with it for 5 years, and they're fulfilled. So I think perspective, regardless on the scale, whether you're impoverished or Elon Musk, you can't be fulfilled without good perspective. And that's the asbestos of our society, the invisible problem which no one is seemingly fulfilled despite having incredible opportunity. Like you can jump on Seek and find a good job. You can use AI to get answers instantly. You can go to the supermarket and get, even though things are inflating rapidly, a good meal for not a huge amount of money. You can grow something on the land. You can, and that's what I learned as well. Like during the pandemic and the financial crisis. My background's Greek. I got a lot of family in Greece and Athens and some of the islands as well. And the ones that were in the big cities, they got hit the hardest during the financial, I guess, struggles, because if you've lost your job and there's no money coming in, it's difficult to eat. But the ones on the island, they were growing their own produce. They didn't care. They picked their tomatoes, they ate, they went and sat at the cafes, relaxed, lit up a cigarette, They were happy and they were fulfilled. It didn't matter that the world was on fire.
Okay, based on your philosophy or on your statements, I can actually conclude that fulfillment is the derivative of happiness. Sounds like happiness comes first, then you become fulfilled.
Yeah, look, I think that's a fair statement. You can't be fulfilled without happiness, I suppose. Yeah.
Look, interestingly, you touched on looking back and revisit your traumas or past events, and then you, I would guess, digest it, and then you can move forward. Do you think actually if people are struggling, if people had those bad experiences, they actually shouldn't revisit those past events? Don't you think that actually it brings those emotions which actually traps them in those states?
Yeah, and look, I've done a lot in the personal development sort of space, and you see a lot of people that like to go back and focus on it and work on it. Look, I think everyone's different, and it depends on the trauma, and it depends on the event. But I think what I've seen in many incredible individuals that have turned significant traumas into success and goals is once again that perspective. So for me, I've experienced setbacks and things like that, but people have experienced much worse. But if you look at it as a learning, and if you look at it, what can you grow from it, what can you learn from it, or something terrible that's happened, and people that go out and educate and empower other people that have experienced that, then sometimes these people see these awful traumas as they shine light on it. It becomes, they can use this terrible event to help others that have experienced that, and that becomes a beautiful thing. So once again, I think perspective's very important. Don't dwell on the negatives and the negative emotions and that, but if you can focus on why could this have happened to, why did this, it didn't happen to me, why did it happen for me? So that's Tony Robbins.
Yeah, sorry, but it did happen for you not to educate others. How do you actually personally yourself overcome this trauma? Because if you're again focusing on past trauma or past event, it doesn't help you personally. Yeah, you can use it as an example to educate others what not to do or how to overcome it, but how do you yourself can overcome it if you're actually stuck in the past?
Yeah, well, I think it's live in the present. And once again, you can also leverage off that. Like, I got through that. What can't I get through? I'm still here. I can choose to focus in that moment and be weakened, or I can look at that moment and say, I've overcome that.
Yep.
And what's in my power? Can I do anything to change or better that situation? If not, why dwell in it? But I've overcome a terrible situation, a big loss, a big traumatic experience, and can you be stronger for it? So I think it's just looking at the positives and living in the now. So that's why a lot of people live in the past and they're clinically depressed. And a lot of people are worrying about the future and they're clinically depressed. But live now. Have a goal in the future, have learnings from the past, but live now.
Interesting. How do you do that?
Focus. So work on it. You wake up. So morning routine. So I know we're both big proponents of the 5 a.m. club, which I think it's a great philosophy to have those set in motion things which you can helps you achieve balance. You get up early, you hydrate. Often we obviously didn't have the earliest start because of the late finish last night, but due to I wake up, I hydrate, I have lemon water, electrolytes, I have my vitamin routine, I do my 100 push-ups, try to go for a run, try to get this balance, and then I sit in the sun and think. So I plan out the day, I plan out the future, I think where I want to be, you see it, you focus on it, and where your attention goes, energy flows, and you end up there. So it's, and then when you know where you're going and you know what you have to do today to take that step forward, then I think it's easy to live in the present. And then once again, like it doesn't, so a lot of people get caught up and they only do this for career, or they only do this for, oh look, I want a shiny new car, but if you do that in every aspect of your life, if your relationships, your finances, your career, your fulfillment, like have a fulfillment plan. What fulfills me? And that's the thing, like despite having, most people will spend 12 hours a week scrolling Instagram. If you spent 12 hours a week or like 2 hours a week, still scroll Instagram for 10 hours if you like. 2 hours a week focusing on where you want to be, where you want to go, where you want to get there, then I guarantee you won't be scrolling Instagram for 12 hours a week or for the remaining 10. You'll be living more present, and you'll know, I want to achieve this. I know this is why I'm here. How do I get there? What do I do in the present to get there? And that's the simplest thing. If you have direction and you know where you want to go, it's easy to get to. You get in the car, you start driving, you drive aimlessly. There's somewhere you want to end up, you don't know where it is. You drive the rest of your life, you never come close. You know you want to go to Cairns, put it in your GPS. It's 12 hours away, or it's a bit of work, but start going the right way. I've got a flat tyre, there's a setback. Do I give up? No. I learned how to change a tyre. Change your tyre, or I learnt to use skill set to kind of barter or work with someone, or get someone to give me a hand, or get a mechanic to open up late at night because you can persuade or barter or exchange or do something to help them out, and then you're back on your way, and you're just running out of fuel. You fuel up. You find a way. You find a way. If you know where you want to get to, you'll find a way. If you have to walk there. You'll get there.
I remember when I ran out of fuel and you came and helped me out.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I was stuck on the highway, riding my motorbike.
Yeah.
And it was 5 minutes before our catch up.
That was 5 motorbikes ago, I think.
No, 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny. Yeah, true story.
Yeah.
It was my Suzuki Boulevard.
Yes. Yeah. That was a nice bike.
Yeah, not after. After the injectors got clogged.
Yeah.
And I put it apart, barely put it together. Tried to clean the injectors, and I think I connected something wrong.
Yeah. You had extra parts afterwards, efficiency.
Yeah, extra 3.
Yeah.
And ended up paying another $1,000 to the mechanic to come and actually fix it.
Yeah. Learning.
Yeah. It was a good experience. Look, what I want to talk to you about, which I never knew until yesterday, when we were driving in the car together, you shared a story with us, with me and Luke, how you had issues with your health and how you did overcome. And I don't know why you didn't share with me this powerful story earlier.
Right.
Can you share with us what happened and how you did overcome these challenges, what you were doing?
Yeah, well, you like what we're saying about perspective, you don't appreciate something till you don't, your risk of losing it or you don't have it anymore. And health, I was always a pretty healthy guy. Like I was always lightly built, but generally not many issues. Then once I got, during the HSC, there was a bit of stress and things like that. And then I had a flow-on effect. I got caught pneumonia, then I caught chickenpox, and then I had glandular fever, and then I got a neck injury around the same time. Then the glandular fever turned into what they said was chronic fatigue, which probably affected me quite heavily for a decade. I was like, I'd go to sleep 14 hours, open my eyes. It felt like I just blinked my eyes and opened them, and it's the next day, and I was completely unrefreshed. The medical system didn't have many answers for a lot of the things I was experiencing. Then I was having a lot of gastro issues in terms of like a lot of acid reflux and all these sort of things. And so I started to go through all the steps. I went to see the GP. The GP sends you to the gastroenterologist. They send you to dietitians and this and that. And I started to learn through these conversations, and I won't get too heavily bogged in it, but people that you have, I guess, a lot of faith in and that have done huge amounts of study and you expect to have the answers, don't always have the answers. And the answers aren't always good. So I was never a big fan of medications, but I did try multiple medications to try to alleviate the issues that I was having, and I was finding that were just creating more issues, which what the answer was, more medications. And that didn't sit right. So I started to do some more research, and I found that heavily medicating and causing problems which were potentially greater than the problems I was experiencing wasn't for me. And like I don't, it's easy. Like a lot of people poo-poo the medical system now because of the large amount of corruption, which is true. But having said that, if trauma surgeons saved my dad's life. Like the medical system's fantastic in the right setting. Same as a lot of things are great. Have a drink is good. Drink yourself stupid, not so good. Like if it's in moderation and in the right settings, the medical system is amazing. But like anything, good mechanics, bad mechanics, good doctors, bad doctors, there's a lot of shortcomings in the system. So I started to go outside of that and explore and go down Chinese medicine, alternative therapies, anything, acupuncture, experimental treatments. For my neck, I had a lot of problems. I started to do experimental treatments, and I had university grad students doing treatments that were new and still collecting data, and I just gave that a go, and I just started to go through and go learnings and go to seminars and webinars and learning. And about that time, one of my aunties we found out had cancer. So it kind of became motivating to learn more and to be able to empower myself to see what options and avenues were available. And we started to go, and I met a great guy called Dr. Greg Fitzgerald. He's a natural hygienist, which I'd never heard of before. And I learned a lot from him and his philosophies and things. There's a lot that I don't agree with, but there's a lot that I learned from, and that's what I was talking about before, about gathering these gems and being able to put the pieces together for yourself, because it's not always the right formula or the right the exact formula that works with everybody. I think everyone is different to an extent. So we started to learn and gather these sort of things, and I started to put these things together and try to start to rebuild my health. And I started to get joint issues to the point where I could no longer play sport. In my mid-20s, my ankles and my wrists were so bad that they were talking about carpal tunnel syndrome and surgery. If I stepped off a gutter, like 4 inches high, it felt like I was jumping out of a 2-story building. Like at the prime of my life, felt like a 106-year-old man. Felt terrible. And I just knew that I didn't want to be in that place, and I had to do what I could to get out of there. And the medical system their only solution was hardcore painkillers and suppressing all these things. And ultimately, I probably wouldn't be here today, to be honest, if I had gone down that path. So I started to learn and research and open my mind and find all these pieces to try to work on this problem. And now, I'm 24 years older than that sort of time, and I'm fitter, stronger, faster, healthier than I've ever been. So,
what exactly did you change?
Mindset was a big one. I'd like to say there was one thing, like I started eating elderberries and that's the answer, but no, it's not one thing. It's learning that it's not one change. It's a myriad of changes. So these 1%ers, from Atomic Habits talks about these 1% changes which make the difference. So being hydrated, drinking clean filtered water. So a lot of people poo-poo these 1% things and saying, some people eat processed foods, but they're talking about having filtered water. Like, why waste your time? It's like, well, if you did both things, but if you smoke and if you're a smoker, so it's okay to drink heavily because you already smoke. It doesn't make sense. So the people like Lane Norton, BioLane, which are great. He's a great success physically. He does a lot of great things. He has a big following, helps a lot of people. But he likes to criticize people that are talking about willing to make change. So he was criticizing people for cutting out food colorings which were carcinogenic, and he's saying, if your whole life's not perfect, then why would you cut out that one thing? But it is cutting out that one thing, but it's these increments. So yeah, cutting out the processed foods, not completely, but majority. Like cutting out the soft drinks, and I don't drink soft drinks ever. Maybe one a year. Same as alcoholic beverages. I'm not a big fan. It never served me well. I might have maybe a handful of drinks in a year. Hydration. So you wake up, do your morning routine, get your mindset right. Drink water, warm lemon water, and it kind of gets your body going, gets your digestive system fired up. Physically get active, you release all the perfect chemicals. You get in the sun, you get the vitamin D, you release the endorphins, your circadian rhythms fired up. You'll be able to sleep well that night if you did, and so that's why we didn't have a smoothest day yesterday, because the routine wasn't followed. And that's the thing, it's having that routine. So what did I change? Everything. What didn't I change is a better question. That's the easiest one, the easier one to answer. And people don't like that answer, because people like the pill, like the Ozempic. I want to lose weight, Ozempic. And weight loss can be complicated, and it can be further complicated by hormonal imbalances and these things that doctors often don't look at, and other medications which are impeding your body to function. Your liver function is impeded by a lot of these medications and statins and things like that, which have flow-on effect to things like weight loss and to things like good sleep. And if you're not getting good sleep, you're not getting good nutrients, you're not in a good state of mind, yeah, it's hard to train. It's hard to get out of a warm bed, and that's why I like breaking. So the cold therapy, if we have time, we'll do an ice bath. It's good because people argue the science. Is the science, is it good for you? Is it bad for you? It doesn't matter. If you have to overcome a challenge, if you have to get out of a warm bed and into a bath of ice at 0 degrees, and you start your day like that and you overcome that, then you're already a champion. You've already conquered a mountain. The rest of the day is easy. The hard phone call, it's not so hard. The workload, the balancing, the having to go through these things, the challenges, the unexpected setbacks, they're not that hard once you've overcome these things and you've set this solid foundation for the day. And that's why it's important to have these steps and these protocols that you can follow. And so what we teach is you're not going to change all this overnight. It's not sustainable. Some people like to do that in the extreme and that, but it's usually fleeting. If you completely change your life overnight, and
you're going to come back to it.
You'll come back to your old habits. But if you say, look, I'm going to introduce the lemon water every morning. Oh yeah, that feels a little bit better. After each meal, I'll go for a 10-minute walk. It's not that hard. I'll listen to a podcast instead of, I don't know, Britney Spears or whatever. I don't know what the crazy kids are listening to these days.
Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah. But
that's the painting you bought from auction.
Yeah, I should have. Yeah, that was good.
You didn't buy it. I think you were auctioning.
I was pumping up the auction for everyone else. Yeah. But and that's it. The easy answer is the hard path. That's it. And it's about nothing comes easy. Arnold Schwarzenegger talks about it all the time. It's lifting that weight. You don't go to the gym once, you look in the mirror, you feel tired, you feel sore, you look the same. Easy to give up. But go 365 days in a row and look in the mirror again. Not so easy to give up now. You've seen the results, you feel better, you're stronger, people are starting to comment, your health's better, you're more vital. Then it becomes easy. So you make the little changes, and the little changes become big changes, and that's those 1%, and that's what it is. It's a compounding effect too. So I think if you improve by 1% in anything you do per day for 365 days, you're 3,800% better than when you started with the power of compound. So you're 38 times better at whatever. If you want to read faster, read 10 minutes a day. You learn, go through you'll be able to digest the most meaningful parts of someone's life in a week. Yeah. That's...
Consistency is the key.
Consistency it's everything.
And discipline, yeah.
And discipline, and it's also not being too hard on yourself. Will you miss a day? Yeah. Will you sometimes miss a week? Will you get sick and have a setback? Will you get an injury and have a setback? But if you've got that vision, I know I want to be here, is it going to serve me to go back to my old ways and go on a tangent in this direction? No, I know I want to be there. I'll get back on the horse. I'll do the treatment. I'll do the rehab. I'll get there. Whatever you have to do to get there, you'll get there.
Were you always so committed from your childhood?
No. I was very stubborn and very, in certain aspects maybe, in sport and soccer and things like that, I never liked to give up. I ran to the death every game. I pushed hard and that. But I guess I didn't have the vision and the larger thing, the larger perspective of if you want to be better at soccer, then work on the fundamental skills more and this sort of stuff. It's just everyone wants to do the fun stuff. They want to just play the games. They don't want to do the hard work in the background. So I didn't understand fully what commitment was, and but it's something that you kind of, I guess I had the fire in the belly, but it just needed to be stoked. It had to be fed.
Look, you obviously grew up in a family of 3. You have 2 older brothers.
Yeah.
How was it to grow with the 2 elderly brothers in a big family?
Yeah.
With the parents working. But again, I believe it was a family business which you're still involved in.
Yeah.
How was it to be in one union?
Yeah, and look, it's once again perspective. I didn't realize how beautiful it was till I got older and was able to look back at it. Because once again, once you're in there, it's easy to be ungrateful and say, oh, this, that, or my older brothers. Because there was a big gap. My brothers were 8 years older, so they probably didn't want to hang out with me so much because they were in high school. I was in primary school. I was in high school. They were, working and living their lives and partners, etc. But we're very close now, and I love my brothers. I love my family. And you start to realise, so my parents, they both worked very hard. My dad is a third generation butcher, my brother's fourth generation. And yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And family's everything. It's very important. And I wouldn't change it for the world. So very, very lucky and blessed to have that. And working in a family business, so there's plenty of arguments, there's plenty of disagreements, there's plenty of setbacks, but perspective, it doesn't matter. It's part of it, and you can either be bitter about an argument, or it's a learning. Okay, what did I do wrong? What did they do wrong? What can we do better? How can we use this to better our business, to better each other, better the family, better the situation, help the next generation more, help those that need it. How can we better serve our community? So I think it's good to have that strong family unit, and I feel like society kind of moved away from it, but now there's a bit of a resurgence in the importance of that. So look, families can all look all shapes and size and look different and all that, and I can respect anything, but I think the fundamental core family, which has been largely that nuclear family, which has been really attacked and disassembled, I think has a valuable place in society and will continue to. And I'd like to preserve that as much as I can.
Yeah, that's very good. Do you think, looking at your family, at your kids, your son will repeat the story you did?
Look, I hope, once again, like we were saying before, I hope I've given him the keys for a fast forward, a shortcut to. So both my son and daughter are very inquisitive, bright kids. They ask a lot of questions, and I like to show them glimpses of what the real world is, and the good and the bad, because there's a lot of beauty in this world that people don't see and they don't appreciate, and it's good to point it out. So we've had the privilege to travelling and spending a lot of time in Asia, and would like to go to Europe next year, and just to see these things which I didn't get to see till I was mid-20s sort of thing, and be able to see and have these life lessons and learnings firsthand, because like your dad says something, you're like, oh, you can't do it, but like to see it and live it and breathe it at an early age, and have that perspective and that insight at this age, where you can start to say, okay, hang on, like if even now, if I start to put a little bit of my money aside for investments, so I'm getting my son to buy some silver now, instead of with birthday money, he can buy the Tamagotchi or whatever he wants to play with, but you don't need two. You're going to get bored of it. What are we going to do? So then, put a little bit into investment. And if you start to do that, put those foundations in now, you might be able to retire by the time you're 18. I wish I had more of that when I was younger. And so my family has a lot of business acumen and a lot of strengths, and but yeah, if I could go back, and then I'd say don't buy that nice car at 18 or 21. Buy a house, or buy a cheap investment property, and then in 5 years, when you've got 3 or 4, sell one, then buy a very nice car, and then have your passive income streams, and then enjoy your life. You can really take the pressure off and take the financial burden off. Then it's easier to focus on what values and things that you what's true to you and what brings you fulfillment. And that's the problem. A lot of people are bitter and upset, and they get cut off in traffic and they want to kill the other guy, and it's the end of the world and this and that. But once again, zoom out to that, look down from the ether at Earth, and you're a speck on a speck with a few emotions, and you're unhappy with something. It's nothing. It's insignificant. So keep that perspective, and that's what I believe anyway.
Beautiful. How much of a role did your father play at your younger age?
Once again, perspective. So he wasn't there a lot because he was working very hard, and he worked incredibly long hours, family business, got into the meat trade with the abattoir and all that, and he had to be there day shift, night shift. Had loans, big financial commitments to pay back. He had a lot of setbacks. He lost one of the major customers that kind of a contract that came with the place, and he had to scramble to try to improvise and keep things going. So I sometimes saw him, one day a week or a few hours here and there. So but did he play a big role? Yes. So I could see, not appreciate at that time, but I could see how hard he was working, and now I can appreciate it. I know, and he's like, everything I have is because of him and my mum. And my mum obviously played a very big role too to keep. She was doing all the financials and all that stuff to keep everything moving forward and working as well, and on the tools as well to keep the machine running and turning, and employing 20 people and building a community, servicing thousands of clients and customers and all this. And my dad and my mum played a big role. And like I said, at that age, I didn't truly have that perspective to appreciate it.
Yep.
And now I do.
I'll ask you a very strange question. Don't take it in the wrong way. What I feel like, your father didn't have a work-life balance.
Yeah.
And as a result, it's actually brought you where you are right now. Because at that time, 20, 30, 40 years back, if he would have a work-life balance, he probably wouldn't achieve what he had right now. He definitely sacrificed.
That's right. But I think he came from a different time as well, and it had a different set of virtues and morals and things like that. So, same as my grandfather too, my mum's father, and I never met my dad's dad. He passed before I was born, but I believe he was hardworking as well. And for my grandfather and my father, I found that the work was part of the balance. It wasn't. The word work is probably not a good word for it. It wasn't just work. It was a lifestyle. It was if he had a choice of going to the pub with a few of the mates or boys and that, or he had the choice of working on the business, it was an easy choice. From the lenses we wear, definitely not. It was heavily work-based, but I think once again that perspective, perhaps because he enjoyed the work, and it was such a large and pivotal part of his life. I think there may have been more balance than the eye sees.
Was it healthy for you that your father wasn't home as much?
That's where I don't think there's much of an argument. The family balance probably wasn't there, and that's where, in terms of, was he serving his family and fulfilling it, and obviously putting food on the table, and us to be able to go to school without having to have side jobs and that, because he started working. My dad started working at 6. He'd have to feed the stock, feed the neighbour's stock. He had to take cattle to be sold, and take the sheep out to paddocks and things like that. And he worked very hard from a very young age because of where they came from, and also having to the financial burden that the family was under. But was he serving his family? Yes, but was he, obviously you have to be present to have certain interactions to pass on. That probably wasn't in balance, what we talked about,
It's very interesting to see how time changed. Again, what was happening 50 years ago, what is happening right now.
Yeah.
But what I want to say to you and to our audience, I truly believe you are a good role model to anyone, to our listeners, to me, to our friends, and how much you give, how much you bring in knowledge. It's just amazing. And I think you achieved a lot in your personal development, in your financial freedom, in your spiritual state. And I'm really, really glad that you're sharing this knowledge with the audience, with us, with Luke, who is our cameraman, an amazing friend as well.
Yeah.
And we're really grateful, Phil, for what you do for all of us.
Yeah. And look, I want to take this opportunity to acknowledge, it takes community to make success, any success, and I think if you surround yourself with good people, and look, I draw a lot from yourself because I know you've had a lot of successes, you've had a lot of setbacks, you've worked through things, you've had great businesses and great relationships too, and I feel as though I've learnt a lot from you, and I'm grateful to be part of your journey and to spend time in your circle, and that's what it is, because once again, to borrow from Tony Robbins, which he borrowed elsewhere as well, but you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So you hang out with 5 drug dealers, it's a matter of time before you're a drug dealer. Before you hang out with 5 pilots, the chances are you're going to probably get your pilot's license. So if you hang out with good people that have motivation, good standards, good work ethic, good balance, or working hard at it, then I think it's important. So I think what you're doing is very important. What you do with your charity and what it's going to do and what it's going to achieve is important. What you're giving to the community is important, and people like you are important. And if people don't do what you do, and that's what I mean. Like, there's a lot of complacency in Australia, and there's a lot of it'll be okay, but if no one does anything, it won't be okay. So what you're doing and taking action, and I often use you as a story. Like, we'll have a discussion. It's like, oh, we should start a business in X, Y, Z. And then the next day you're like, hey, Phil, I've registered it. I've employed 5 people. I've done this. And I'm just like, what are you talking? We'll talk about this yesterday. How? And it's incredible. And it's your real action, man. And I'm inspired by that and what you do as well. And it's cool. It's cool.
Well, thank you, my friend.
Yeah.
Look, I think we both feed each other.
Yeah,
because we vibrate, I think, on the same energy. Which is very good.
Yeah, I hope so, and I hope, and I think that's what it's about. It's about giving, and not that's. I think that's why a lot of relationships fall over, a lot of societies fall over. It's that expectation of receiving, and that we have this problem now with entitlement, which we're talking about as well. Like, people are fair. Like, I hate that word fair. Whenever my son uses it, he likes to. That's not fair, and I'm just like, no, it's not. It's not. Like, don't expect fair. Life's not fair. If you expect fair, expect disappointment. Like, do not expect fair. If you want something, work at it. If someone got something, don't expect it, because it's not necessarily coming. Don't stand there with your hand out, because you might be there a skeleton with your hand out. Like, don't expect these give outs and payouts. If you want, like I said, set that goal and you work towards it. Don't worry about fair. If you wait for fair, you'll be part of the universal basic income before you know it, because what's fair? Or everyone should get the same. Well, if not everyone's giving the same, not necessarily the same is going to get back. And sometimes people don't have the capacity, or there's obviously people that have disabilities, and that's what's part of a good, healthy society. So if a society can function effectively, and those that are producing can help those that can't, that's cool. But those that don't want to, then I think like, fair's nothing. Fair's been corrupted. I don't like fair. So
okay, let's be fair to Mr. Phil and say thank you to you.
Yeah.
And thank you for our audience, or to the audience, for listening. And I guess we'll see you next time. Thank you, Phil.
Thanks, Val. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.